What is the best used sports coupe on the market for between £30,000 and £40,000? You wouldn't believe some of the cars that you can get yourself into under the current market conditions. You see, October through to December is always a quiet month. Prices are always low in these months. But 2023 has been coupled with ever-rising insurance premiums, higher interest rates for borrowing, and still affordability on everyday life-to-life. It's the perfect storm for used car prices. But it makes it a great opportunity for buyers. And that's why over the last couple of months, I've been hunting the classifieds, doing the research to find out what car I want to get. And in this video, I'm going to reveal to you my top 6. The criteria was really simple. It needed to be used. It needed to be a coupe, either 2-seater or 2+2. And ideally, I wanted something different to the rest of the garage in regard to engine. So I wanted something that wasn't a 4-cylinder. Ideally 6 or 8 cylinders. And above all, I wanted it to be fast, I wanted it to be fun, and I wanted it to feel special. This is my top 6. And one of these, I promise, will be joining the Fast and Fun garage in the not too distant future. Welcome to this week's Fast and Fun. So in alphabetical order, the first one up, number 1, is the Aston Martin V8 Vantage. Built from 2006 for over 10 years, originally as a 4.3 litre V8 producing 380 brake horsepower. But 2 years later, in 2008, they enlarged the engine to a 4.7 litre, producing a whopping 420 brake horsepower. And prices for the V8 Vantage, they start from as little as 20,000. So at the bottom of my budget at 30k is going to get you into a really tidy, really clean looking 4.3 litre. And if you take it all the way up to my 40k top, that's going to get you into the bigger and more powerful 4.7 litre. Again, a good one with solid service history and not too many miles. What I love about the V8 Vantage is it's a legend. It's an Aston Martin. Let's be truthful, who doesn't want an Aston Martin in their garage? It is every petrol-head's dream. The other big advantage of the V8 Vantage is there's plenty of manuals about too. And that's something quite close, core to what I want. It's not a showstopper, but it's a big advantage with the V8 Vantages, having manuals and plenty of manuals about on the market. And the values of them, because they've dropped to this level now, there's a really good market, there's plenty to choose from, you can be quite picky, and you can really bag yourself a cracking car. And of all the cars I've picked, arguably the V8 Vantage is the best looking of the lot. It is truly a stunning looking car from just about any angle. But there are a few concerns with the V8 Vantage. Expensive. The ownership costs of an Aston Martin are going to be right at the top threshold. This is above the German marques. This is above your Porsches as well. This is in a very, very upper tier. So costs of ownership are going to be of a concern. The other worry with the V8 Vantage is it too much GT rather than out-and-out sports car? Well, the DB9, the V12 6-litre DB9, that definitely sits in the Grand Tourer space. But the V8 Vantage sits in that middle ground, half GT, half sports car. But my concern is, I've never driven one. Will I find it too much GT when I really, really want high-performance sports coupe? And then the other niggle with the V8 Vantage is depreciation. You see, future depreciation. You see, Aston Martins are notorious for losing value. And they lose value because they're so expensive to maintain. And the question is a 30 or 40k V8 Vantage now is that going to depreciate in the future? Second car is the Audi R8 V8. Built from 2007 through to 2014, the Gen 1 Audi R8 is a true legend of a car. Prices for the Gen 1s for the V8 start at about £30,000. So it will get you in an R8, albeit it will have higher miles again, or a bit more of a patchy history. But 35k, slap bang in the middle of my budget, will get you a good, solid V8. And if you can push up to that top end, around 40, that will get you the very best low mileage V8. What I love about the R8 is its looks again. It is the one that looks like a true supercar. Whether the V8 is or not is immaterial. You look at a V8, it's low, it's wide, it's a mid-mounted engine, it just screams supercar. It may not have the elegance of the Aston Martin, but it's certainly a stunner in its very own right. The open-gated Ferrari-esque manual shifter looks, and I'm sure is, an absolute delight to use. And when mated to that fabulous Audi V8, the 4.2 that's been fitted to the RS4 in many guises, it is an absolute screaming, high-revving V8. It should make a truly intoxicating driving experience. But there are a few negatives with the R8 as well, because with the supercar looks, perhaps comes supercar running costs. There's some pretty hefty potential bills there, not just simply clutches, but some things like the magnetic ride, the V10 rear suspension, and a whole host of other things. There's always the opportunity for a big repair bill for the R8. The automatic version of the R8 as well, called the R-Tronic, which is more of an automated manual than a full automatic, is as well best avoided. The one for sure to go for is the V8 manual. And ultimately, you're spending £30,000 to £40,000. That's a lot of money on an Audi. And it doesn't carry this prestigious badge of some of the other cars in this range. Next up is the BMW M2, specifically the F87 in BMW speak, built between 2016 and 2021. Powered front-engined by a 3-litre inline-6 turbocharged to deliver 365 brake horsepower. The later M2 Comp that came out in 2018 was enhanced by a different engine and produced 405 brake horsepower. Price-wise, M2s, you can get a really good, solid, low mileage M2 for 30k, right at the bottom of the market, right at the bottom of my budget. 35k will get you into an M2 Comp, the ultimate M2, well, if you exclude the M2 CS. What are some of the things that I love about it? Well, the M2 for me is what the M3 used to be years and years ago. It's small, it's compact, it's big power, it's rear-wheel drive. You know it's going to be an absolute driver-focused car. And because it is by far the most modern of the 6 cars I've selected, that comes with a whole host of benefits too. Reliability. It's a more modern car. It should have done less miles. It should be more reliable than some of the older cars on this list. And because it's so modern, things like the infotainment systems, the more modern tech, smartphone compatibility, all the things that we take as for granted now that aren't on cars from 10 or 15 years ago, the M2 has. But there are a couple of concerns with the M2. The initial M2 came with the N55 engine. It was the first M car that didn't have a purpose-built M Sport Division engine, albeit the later M2 Comp did, because that came with the specific S55. But the biggest concern, I think, with the M2 for me is depreciation. You see, being so new, being so modern, it will still be susceptible to depreciation. And although M cars hold their money historically really, really well, I do expect depreciation for the next few years on these M2s. Next up is the Lotus Evora. Built from 2010, originally in a 3.5 litre V6 with 280 brake horsepower, but then came out with an S version which up and supercharged that engine to a much more impressive 345 brake horsepower. Prices for the Lotus Evoras remain really strong though. So 30 to 40k will get you a really clean, tidy looking non-S Evora. But even at my upper budget of 40k, you're going to struggle to find an S version with that supercharged V6. What I love about the Lotus Evora is, it's built by this one company that put the driver above anything else. The handling, it will be so brilliant with regard to a driver-focused car. And the Lotus Evoras are so rare. In fact, I haven't seen one for many, many months, and it generally shows where you see the Evora. Super rare cars now to see on the road, but they look absolutely amazing. And again, a miniature type of supercar with their compact dimensions. But there's a few issues with the Lotus Evora. The build quality. Having done the research, Lotus have got that reputation that still was around the 2010. Especially on the inside. It doesn't look as premium, as well built as the other brands in this list. And my fear is the Evora, although it was a sports car for the road, I still believe that Lotuses are better on track than they are road. Would it be true to track biased? And then the other issue is, because they're exceedingly rare, when it comes to buying, there's very few to choose from. So selecting colour and spec and negotiating a price is going to be really difficult because of the low numbers. So it's going to be the advantages with the seller. And that's probably why they're so depreciation proof, because the numbers are so low. Next up is the Nissan GT-R R35. Built from 2009 with the front-engined 3.8 litre V6, producing in standard spec a monstrous 480 brake horsepower. And there was a sequence of updates sort of every couple of years with the GT-R. Prices of the GT-Rs, the bottom of the market is somewhere between 35 and 40k. They'll have a few more miles on, probably a little bit patchier history, not quite as in good condition, so probably fair condition. So you are right at the bottom of the market with my upper budget. What do I love about the GT-R R35? Well, for me, it is the ultimate JDM, the Japanese domestic market. It is the one, when you think of JDM, you naturally think of the Skylines and the later R35 GT-R. It is got a status that few cars can follow. And if performance, the single-minded performance of a car, the ability to go down a B road or on track as quickly as possible was the ultimate game, then the GT-R would probably be at the top of the list. It's also got a plethora of tunable options. And we know, and you can see on the classifieds, some of the serious power that V6 can contain with the tunable options of the GT-R. And of all the cars in the 6, the GT-R is probably the most track/road ready of any of the cars. The ability to drive to a circuit, use it for the whole of the circuit and drive back, the GT-R is probably the ultimate weapon. But there's a few issues with it. The biggest one for me is not having a manual option. The Tiptronic gearbox is a big consideration when buying the GT-R. Also within my price range, I'm buying at the bottom of the market. And that just comes with huge risk. Higher miles, patchier history, dodgy modifications. You could be buying into a financial pit. And when you look at the inside of the car, it's black, it's plastic, it's typical Japanese, it's typical Nissan. It doesn't have the quality of some of the other brands. And finally, number 6, the Porsche 911 997. Built from 2004-2005 through to 2013 as either a Gen 1 or after 2009 as a Gen 2. The Carrera came as a 3.6 litre flat 6 producing 325 horsepower, and in Gen 2 guys got an extra 25 horsepower to lift that to 345. The Carrera S was enlarged to a 3.8 litre and produced 360, and then later in Gen 2 guys 385 brake horsepower to, in most part, the rear wheels, although there was a 4-wheel drive option. The prices of the 997s, 30k will get you a really nice looking, tidy and well maintained Gen 1, both Carrera and Carrera S. If you want the Gen 2 for the 40k budget, you're most likely going to have to settle for a Carrera. The Carrera S's for Gen 2s are in and around 40 or a little bit just over 40. So, but a bit of negotiating, you might just bag yourself a Gen 2. What I love about the 911, 997 is you are buying into history. You're buying into a legend that the 911 has created. Porsche, the Porsche 911, is it the ultimate driving car over the last 40 or 50 years? It's been going on. It is the pinnacle, and that's the one. I thought a Porsche had to be in this group, and it had to be the 911 over the Cayman or the Boxster. You know you've got a high degree of practicality, even daily ability with the 911, and you know with Porsche engineering it will be reliable, subject to one of my cons, which I'll come on to shortly. And there are plenty of options as well. It's not just about it being Carrera, Carrera S, but you've got the option of a coupe, you can have cab, you could have a Targa, you could have 2-wheel drive, you could have 4-wheel drive. So there's a whole host of options to fit everybody's needs. There's a few cons with the 997 though. Specifically, the main one is the renowned bore scoring, especially of the Carrera S's in the Gen 1s. So you've just got to be really, really careful if you buy a Gen 1. That is why it would be advantageous to go to the upper end of the budget and bag yourself a Gen 2. The other, I suppose, little con against the 911s is because they've been so successful, there are quite a lot of them on the market. There's a lot of, because their usability, there's a lot of them on the road. Are they just too common? Do they look special enough? Will they feel special enough? I'm just not quite sure. So there we go. That is my top 6. Of all the research I've done, all the pros and cons and prices that I've looked at across a whole range of cars, and there's a whole bunch that really nearly made it into my top 6, but these are the ones that naturally over the last few months I've focused more and more on. Yes, there's now starting to be a hierarchy of pecking order of these 6, but one will come out on top, and I will endeavour to buy one and introduce it into this garage in the coming weeks or months. There you go. Hope you enjoyed it. It's a video that I hope generates quite a bit of interest. I'm always intrigued what other people's top 6 would be. Drop them below. Can't wait to read any comments, thoughts, observations, whether you agree or most likely that you disagree. Some great cars. Hope you enjoyed it. Please comment below, subscribe if you haven't, and stay tuned. Another video next week. Thanks for watching, guys.